Most people think having $1 million saved for retirement means you've made it. That's the benchmark, right? The number that supposedly guarantees comfort, safety, and the freedom to stop working whenever you want. And let's be clear, a million is a lot of money. Despite what some people say online, mostly people who don't have it, it's not nothing. But here's the part that almost nobody realizes. Very few people actually get there. And I don't mean net worth. I don't mean counting your house, your car, or that old business idea you swear is worth something. I mean real retirement savings, money specifically set aside to fund life after work. If you strip everything else away and look only at retirement accounts, the number of people with $1 million drops off a cliff. Before we dig into the data, quick pause. If this kind of conversation is useful, subscribe. It helps more people see this before it's too late. All right, let's talk numbers. Because the gap between perception and reality here is massive. According to the Federal Reserve, the median retirement savings for all American households is about $87,000. Read that again, $87,000. That means half of households have less than that saved for retirement. Even among people in their late 50s and early 60s, the group closest to retirement, the median is only around $185,000. That's not even in the same universe as a million. A lot of people feel financially secure because they own a home, sometimes even outright, and that does count for something. But when you isolate what actually pays your bills after you stop working, the money that can generate income, most people have far less than they think. Here's where it gets shocking. Roughly 7% of Americans are millionaires by net worth, counting everything they own. But only about 2.6% of Americans have 1 million or more saved specifically for retirement. Let that sink in. Out of every 100 people, only 2 or 3 have reached 7 figures in the accounts designed to support them after work ends. That's it. And to be fair, being a net worth millionaire, even if much of it comes from home equity, is still an achievement. It usually reflects years of stability and discipline, but there's a critical difference between wealth on paper and money you can actually live on. $1 million locked inside your house is valuable, but it doesn't buy groceries unless you sell, borrow, or downsize. It doesn't pay monthly bills unless you convert it into income. That distinction matters more than most people realize. You can be worth $1 million on paper and still need a paycheck. You can own assets worth far more than you owe and still feel financially tight. Because wealth that doesn't generate income doesn't solve the problem retirement creates. And retirement creates one very specific problem. Your time becomes yours, but your paycheck stops. Now let's look at why this gap gets so wide. Why so few people reach the $1 million mark in actual retirement savings? One reason is obvious. Consistency is hard. People lose jobs. They raise kids. They face medical bills. Life interrupts even the best intentions. Retirement contributions get paused during a layoff. They get reduced when daycare costs spike. They disappear entirely when an emergency wipes out the emergency fund. None of this is moral failure. It's just reality. Most people are navigating competing priorities with limited margin for error. Another reason is quieter and more dangerous. A lot of people spend to look successful instead of building the kind of wealth that actually lasts. Lifestyle inflation sneaks in slowly. Raises go to nicer cars, bigger homes, and higher fixed expenses. Nothing looks reckless, but investable wealth never has room to grow. You're making more, you're spending more, and at the end of the year, there's nothing left to compound. The appearance of success replaces the structure of security, and then there's time. Even with good habits, $1 million doesn't happen quickly. Someone contributing $500 a month at a 7% return needs most of a career to get there. Even at $1,000 a month, you're looking at 20 plus years to hit 7 figures. Many people simply start too late, or they start on time but stop too often. Contributions pause. Accounts get cashed out during job changes. The compounding clock resets. So the result is a country where the idea of $1 million retirement is common, but the reality is incredibly rare. Which raises a more important question. What does $1 million in retirement actually do for you? Because once you understand that, you'll realize why this number isn't about luxury at all, and why it's quietly becoming the new baseline for security. So what does $1 million in retirement actually look like in real life? Let's ground this in reality, not headlines. Using a conservative 4 to 5% withdrawal rate, a $1 million portfolio can generate about $40,000 to $50,000 per year before taxes. That's not yachts and private jets. That's groceries, utilities, insurance, and a roof over your head. Now add Social Security. The average benefit is around $1,900 per month, or roughly $23,000 a year per person. For a retired couple, that's close to $46,000 combined. Put those together, and a household with $1 million saved could be living on $86,000 to $96,000 per year. Comfortable? Yes. Luxurious? No. Secure? Absolutely if you reach that number. But most people don't. Federal Reserve data shows that the median household aged 65 to 74 has only about $200,000 in retirement savings. To make that work, many rely on a mix of Social Security, small withdrawals, and part-time income. Retirement for most is leaner than the dream. This is why it's critical to understand the difference between being net worth rich and retirement ready rich. Net worth counts everything you own, but you can't live off your car. You can't pay for groceries with furniture, and you can't easily turn non-liquid assets into monthly income without selling or borrowing. That's why liquid investments matter more than people think. Consider two people with the same $1 million net worth. Person A owns a $900,000 home outright and has $100,000 in savings. On paper, they're a millionaire. In practice, they still need a paycheck. Person B owns a modest home with $100,000 in equity and has $900,000 invested. Same net worth. Completely different reality. Person B could likely stop working tomorrow. Same number, different freedom. This isn't about putting down home ownership. It's about understanding what each type of asset actually does. Homes can build wealth, but they don't compound like investments. Historically, stocks have doubled roughly every 7 to 10 years over long periods. A $1 million portfolio could become $2 million in about 7 years, and $4 million in 14 or 15 without adding another dollar. Homes, on average, appreciate closer to 4% annually. That's solid, but it doesn't multiply the same way. A $1 million home might be worth about $1.3 million in 7 years. Useful? Yes. Transformational? Not really. And here's the bigger issue. Your home appreciating doesn't help you pay bills unless you do something disruptive. Sell and move. Take out a loan. Downsize and pocket the difference. All of those options come with friction, transaction costs, emotional costs, lifestyle changes. Meanwhile, a properly structured investment portfolio can generate income without you touching the principal. Dividends, interest, strategic withdrawals. The asset keeps working while you sleep. That's the difference between wealth and cash flow, between being rich on paper and being financially free in practice. So why does the $1 million mark feel so out of reach for most people? First, not everyone contributes consistently. Life interrupts plans. Emergencies drain accounts. Job changes create gaps. Second, growth takes time. Compounding is slow at first and powerful later, but many people quit during the quiet years. They don't see dramatic growth early, so they assume it's not working. Third, many Americans over-rely on their home or Social Security, neither of which was designed to fully fund retirement. Your home wasn't built to generate income. It was built to provide shelter. Social Security wasn't designed to replace your salary. It was designed to supplement it. Relying on either one as your primary retirement plan is hoping that a tool designed for one job can do another. There's also a mental block. People hear $1 million and think it's impossible through saving alone. And they're right. Contributions don't build the million. Time and compounding do. Even starting at 30, maxing out a Roth IRA with average market returns can get you there by 65. You're not contributing $1 million. You're contributing maybe $300,000 or $400,000. The market does the rest, but that only works if you start. And if you stay. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people won't hit $1 million in retirement savings, not because they're lazy, not because they're bad with money, but because the system isn't designed to make it easy. Wages are flat for decades while costs rise. Employer matches are shrinking, pensions are gone, healthcare is expensive, housing is expensive, education is expensive, the margin for error has collapsed, and yet the expectation is that individuals will somehow navigate all of this perfectly and arrive at retirement with 7 figures saved. It's not realistic for most people, and pretending otherwise just creates shame instead of solutions. So what do you do if you're nowhere near $1 million and retirement is approaching? First, stop comparing yourself to an ideal that most people never reach. The goal isn't perfection, it's sustainability. Second, maximize what you can control. Contribute what you can. Even small amounts compound over time. $200 a month for 20 years at 7% is over $100,000. That's real money. Third, understand your full income picture. Social Security, pensions if you have one, part-time work, rental income. Retirement income today is almost always a stack, not a single source. Fourth, consider geography. Your retirement dollars go further in some places than others. You don't have to move to the middle of nowhere, but living somewhere with lower taxes and lower costs can make a huge difference. Fifth, focus on expenses as much as income. Most people focus entirely on how much they'll have and ignore how much they'll need. If you can live comfortably on less, you need less saved. And finally, build liquidity. Not just net worth, liquidity. Money you can access without selling your house or taking out a loan. That's what gives you options when life doesn't go according to plan. So here's where we land. $1 million in retirement isn't a fantasy, but it's also not common. Only about 2.6% of Americans have actually reached it in dedicated retirement savings. If you're in that group, congratulations. You're in rare company, and you have security most people don't. If you're not, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're normal. And normal doesn't have to mean unprepared. The goal isn't to look rich on paper. It's to have money that shows up for you every month, reliably, predictably, without drama. $1 million isn't a finish line. It's not guaranteed freedom. It's the starting point of security in a world where longevity, healthcare, and inflation are real risks. What matters most isn't the headline number. It's how much of your wealth can actually generate income. Net worth is a useful gauge, like checking your car's oil, but retirement readiness is about the engine, cash flow, sustainability, flexibility. Two people with the same net worth can live completely different retirements. One has freedom, the other has stress. The difference isn't luck, it's structure. If you're starting early, you have the most valuable asset there is: time. Use it. Contribute consistently. Let compounding do the heavy lifting. Don't try to time markets, don't chase returns, just stay in the game. If you're starting late, you still have options. Contribute more if you can. Work a few years longer if possible. Reduce expenses where it doesn't hurt your quality of life. Build multiple income streams. The point is, retirement isn't binary. It's not made it or failed. It's a spectrum. And where you land on that spectrum depends more on the decisions you make today than on any single number. So stop chasing the million because it sounds impressive. Start building the system that works for your life, because that's what actually matters. And that's why so few people truly reach this milestone, and why understanding it early quietly puts you ahead of the curve. If this shifted how you think about retirement wealth, subscribe for more honest financial education. Drop a comment if you're rethinking what enough actually means, because the goal isn't to be average, it's to be ready, and readiness looks different for everyone.